Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic, also non-classic. This episode number 3546, episode number 3440. Got two DC trades. First of which is the second and final trade of this volume for Justice Society America. It's also the last time we'll get a chance to see Jeff Johns write a DC comic, because I think after this, when I saw this book end, I thought, oh, is that it for the JSA? Oh no, there is another book after this by Jeff Lemire. So pretty much in this book, we have a lot of stuff happening here. So we have the cast of Stargirl and the Lost Children appear here, where you just have Judy got her father. That sets up basically the Jay Garrick Flash series. And of course, Helena in this book meets up with her father, Batman. Yes. Which, of course, he does thank her for saving her life. And we actually had the Lost Kids basically interacting with basically various heroes. The character Salem herself talks to Khaled, who is the current Dr. Fate. And, of course, here's the thing. They bring up all the previous Dr. Fates. Jared, the Strauss stepmother and son. Jared, Dr. Fate's, Kent Nelson's wife. The other great nephew of Kent Nelson, Kent V. Nelson, which I think this might be the first time I ever brought him up here that I could think of, because he's barely mentioned. Of course, they also bring up back, there's also Hector Hall, the son of Hawkman and Hawkgirl. Yeah, and there's also a thing of like, take her to the Fate Tower, possibly get back to Limbo, and after this little story involving the second Wildcat, she goes back to Limbo Town to sort her own thing out. Quiz Kid is in here, which he actually works with Mr. Terrific. He gets along really good with Mr. Terrific. Like, he appreciates what Mr. Terrific, that Michael Hall is doing as Mr. Terrific, to keep the whole thing of fair play, modify one of T-Spirits as a Q-Spear, and starting up the Fair Play Network, an online thing. Okay, interesting. Courtney, of course, basically, they kind of explore a little bit of her history, where Jeff Johns kind of basically brings in the pre-Flashpoint history of her in here, which good on him for doing that, because it is his character. Also, I should point out, though, Stargirl isn't her pre-Flashpoint costume, because when she appeared in the Justice League America book, she was in the full bodysuit. She's back to this now. There's also mention here of Jack Knight, who is retired, and they also bring up his son. Yes, Kyle, who they say has become the Mist because his grandpa was the original Mist. I find that kind of weird. By the way, the whole thing with Jack Knight's son is that his mom is a woman named Nash, which how this child was conceived, it wasn't consensual. Oh no. Basically, the way James Roberts is spelled out in the book is that she practically raped Jack Knight. Off panel. She has drugged him and she says, "See you in 9 months." Yep, and then eventually he did get the chance to hold his baby, and of course, the original Starman got a chance to hold his one grandchild, because of course David can't get a child anymore because he's dead. There's no mention of David Knight, surprisingly, or the original Starman. At one point in here, we actually have, get this, so we have appearance by the Legion of Superheroes as related to the mysterious Legionnaire. He was another creation of Jeff Johns, which they unveil who it is, and it's Modru, an old villain of Dr. Fate, though this is not the one that they followed for the years. Oh no, this is a young him, and they mentioned apparently he knew Ma Hinkle, who was not in here. I'm like, that's interesting. So Yolanda was missing for a while, and then this weird, gross moment where Eclipso comes out of her body by simply ripping her head apart, and like, here's Eclipso, and thanks to their magic stuff, they basically fixed her. She's perfectly fine now. Yeah, my guess is the reason why they had her briefly have Eclipse come out of her, because of the Eclipso, 3 issues of Eclipso, where it was Eclipso issue 13 of the short-lived Eclipse ongoing, where she died. I'm like, okay, interesting. And they also recruit various people who are part of the Future Justice League one, of course, is Ruby. Who is Ruby, you might ask? Ruby is the daughter of retconned old Alan Scott Green Lantern villain Crimson Flame, who is a Red Lantern of the Golden Age. Yes. He is a retcon character because Alan Scott technically only had two bad guys. That being Vandal Savage and Solomon Grundy, which he's in here. Then he dies, but don't worry, he will come back. Now, weirdly enough, Helena does not interact with her brother Damien. There's no appearance by Damien in this whole book. I like the fact that basically there's a lot of follow with a lot of characters here. So I mentioned about TNT. I do really enjoy this, and the fact they kind of have the members join up with the young members join with the JSA. This book is fantastic. I give this 10 out of 10. It was really good. I love this book. This book, by the way, I forgot to mention the issues it contained here. Justice League America, Volume 4, Issues 6 to 12. Despite containing 7 issues, it's pretty thin. Yes. But overall, great book. And I cannot wait to discuss the JSA book. Yeah, by the way, also, Jagger Thunder makes appearance in here. Bat Chapel. Yeah, overall, fantastic. And anybody reading this can clearly tell Jeff Johns has a lot of love for the Justice Society of America. I bet some people were worried, like, why? Okay, so the reason why it was 12 issues, the reason I've heard, because this was a limited series. And apparently this was very successful and probably very well received from readers, that DC had no choice but to launch a ongoing JSA title. But Jeff Johns wasn't writing it. It's Jeff Lemire. I'll discuss some other point, but I'll discuss later. So, next up we have is Trinity, daughter of Wonder Woman. Now, also, this book contains the entire 6-issue limited series. Each of the covers in this book are all variants of famous covers. So we have basically written by Tom King, or by Bella Organa. So that's the cover, which is also the cover of the trade. The interior cover here is, get this. So the whole thing is that a young Trinity is looking for superheroes who look at these corgis, and each variant cover is a nod to a classic cover. The first one here being a nod to Crisis on Earth's number, I believe it was number 7, I believe it was, where they killed off Supergirl. And the whole thing is Mariah's here, he's witnessing all this, and this girl who basically is one of our name is Wonder Robin. Yes. So the whole thing is witnessing all this stuff here. And then, of course, we see, well, Trinity appear here too. And I got happy to see her dad, Steve Trevor, who does kind of appear in the book. And let's talk about these other covers. These covers are quite interesting. So then we have this one here, where you look at this cover here, like, is this a nod to a cover from DC? Yes. There is a later cover in here. I think it was one of the other issues is a nod to Batman 420. I believe this is a nod to one of the Batman Death of Family. This is like a Corky in the Family. I don't think this is a nod to issue 1 because, yeah, it seems like, though, like the variant covers here for this book like to play homage to Death of the Family for some reason. Come on. Yeah, so it's a pun on Death of Family. I'm trying to figure out which cover it was. I know it was one of the covers. Let's see. No, it's not that one. Nope. Okay, so issue 2 is a nod to Batman 426, the variant cover for this one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, by the way, it's basically Robin. It's Damian and John turning to corgis, and then we have Elizabeth run into Dick Grayson in the past, where they go to the Batcave. Now, this issue cover, this main one here, that's actually not to Wonder Woman #1. Yes, volume number 1. And here's another cover here. Now, this cover here is a nod to. It's now the main cover is a nod to Wonder Woman #1 by George Perez. This one, I believe, was a nod to was another issue of Wonder Woman. It wasn't necessarily like. I had to look up because I know the way where she's standing here, it's obviously a nod to Wonder Woman Volume 2. I just want to be sure about that. Let's see. Is the variant cover the main one? Okay, so the cover itself, yes, I was definitely correct. It was definitely a nod to issue 1. Yes, definitely. This other cover here looks like it's style in the 90s. I'm guessing it could be issue 60, maybe? Is 60? No, not 60. 62? No, not 62. No, not that one. Maybe it's not a different issue. Let's see. Because I remember this was a nod to. I remember this cover being on cover one of the issues. Let's see. No, it was not issue 3. I look at the cover gallery here. Hang on. Because I remember this being a cover here for one of the covers, Wonder Woman Volume 2. Because the main cover obviously is a nod to Wonder Woman #1. Let's see. I'm trying to look over here. Let's see. Where she's like flying. I think it might be a nod to the first issue of Volume 3. I'm thinking it might be Volume 3. Let me just take a look at that for sure, because no, it was actually issue the birds in the background. I remember this was an actual Wonder Woman cover. I know it was not 600. I know that for sure. 600 a completely different cover. Because I remember that this was a cover to one Wonder Woman book. I'm trying to remember which one. Okay, so it's a nod to issue 22. Okay, interesting. So, yeah, too bad. Yeah, basically, I'm banned from editing the wiki site because reasons. So, like, This cover is 22 for Wonder Woman, and this is a nod to Wonder Woman #1. Which, okay, really cool here. And of course, you have more of the quirky stuff here. Let's see. And of course, you have Mary's Misadventures, of course, fighting a young Wonder Woman here. Trinity meet her awesome dad. And then we have, oh boy, so we have a nod here to a Batman cover. Which one am I going to ask? This was a nod to, I believe, was Batman 50. Not Volume 2, and definitely not Volume 1. I think this is a nod to Batman Volume 3. Because I remember this was a fairly recent cover. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the outside border definitely is from that, but I'm thinking this may have been from Batman based on the cover. But what about the variant cover? The variant cover with looking in the mirror and it says DC Universe. Something old, something new. Let's see. This is issue number 4. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, definitely about issue 50. I was right about that. But the textless variant cover, I remember this was actually, I think this may have been nod to Dark Knight Returns. Yes, I believe it was. Because I remember this was an image from Dark Knight Returns. Where it was Carrie Kelly looking in the mirror. If my mic, if my mouth stopped being so freaking stiff. Anyways. So. Basically, this whole thing is going back in time to the aborted wedding of Batman Catwoman, which, in my honest opinion, should have freaking happened. Yeah, DC getting cold feet about this was stupid. And I know that Tom King himself got death threats over this nonsense. Yes. So, then we have Robin, like, I thought I knew you, Lizzie. You could give me your darkest secrets. And then the variant cover for issue 5 is an obvious nod to Batman 430. Yes. The whole thing of like dark secret thing doesn't really play a role in here. And we have stuff here with a Scarecrow. And more nods to Dark Knight Returns here. And then we have the last issue here, which, well, this is her take on Wonder Woman 22 here with this last cover here. Yep. Yeah, where the Corgi sees... Yeah, the whole thing is like chopping corgis, and eventually everything is restored back to normal, and that's kind of it here. Looks like someone we did here. I don't think it's Jason. There's Ed Robin here, and you're probably thinking like, which Robin is this? Looking at this here one dead, because here's the thing: it's not Tim. It's probably a version of Jason Todd in the past that was dead but currently is alive now. But the Corgi thing was fine, but I think probably the best thing about this series was the variant covers. I love variant covers they have for this book. I thought it was quite interesting that we have 2, I think it was issue 2, I think it was. No, 3. 3 was a nod to 2 Wonder Woman covers. Like, the main cover was a nod to issue 1, and the variant cover was a nod to issue 22. I'm like, that was cool. And also the fact that 2 and 5 were nods to Batman 426 and 430. I thought that was really interesting. to say the least. But what the final issues cover? Is that not too recent? I mean, based on the final issues cover, I am guessing this is probably a nod to something, but I don't think it's not to anything. Let me. Yeah, apparently all this takes place prior to Wonder Woman number 800, which this trade does not collect that particular appearance. So, could you say this before that Wonder Woman issue? Yes, definitely. And it does set up a. Well, it does pretty much set up a feature for Wonder Woman who will get a regular backup feature. Yes. Yeah. I'll definitely get a chance to hopefully get a chance to the other Trinity trade. But right now let's end it here because we're talking for quite a while. Well, I'll see working here. So that's pretty much a particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, to notifications. By the way, I do give this Trinity trade here a 8 out of 10. Good book. Just nothing made to drive home about with this one. Okay, so I'll see you next video.